Hello, dear friend. Welcome to Healing Pages channel, the safe haven where every page you turn brings you gently back to yourself. Maybe we've all gotten used to living in a world that constantly pushes us to be faster, to be better, to keep striving just so we don't fall behind. Even in those rare quiet moments, we don't really rest. We pick up our phones, scroll through endless images, compare ourselves to others, and suddenly feel like we're still not enough. Some nights, when everything around us goes quiet, a subtle emptiness begins to surface in our hearts. Maybe it's after an overwhelming day, a silent disappointment, or a sadness no one else sees. That's when we start to feel the weight on our minds, and somewhere deep inside, we whisper to ourselves, "I've been trying so hard. Why do I still feel so unsettled?" This video is a small, honest, and gentle conversation, just for you, for the you who is learning how to slow down and truly listen to your inner self. You don't need to push harder right now, and you don't have to be perfect in this moment. Together, we're going to explore 3 simple habits that carry a quiet, healing power. They don't require any techniques. They don't take up much time. All they ask is a little care for yourself, a bit of softness in the way you move through life, and a touch of kindness from within. Because sometimes, slowing down, just by a few beats, is all it takes to begin feeling a little lighter again. Habit 1. Create a daily moment of stillness. Have you ever felt like the entire world is spinning way too fast, and you're just trying to keep up without even knowing where you're going? Some mornings, even before your feet touch the ground, your phone lights up with unread messages, urgent deadlines, and a whole day that already feels like a non-stop soundtrack with no pause. Slowing down may sound like a luxury in a world where speed is seen as the measure of success. But if you've ever found yourself exhausted from reacting to everything instantly, if your mind feels like an endless newsfeed that never shuts off, then stillness might be the very gift your soul is aching for. Stillness doesn't mean going on a long retreat or turning off your devices to meditate in some distant mountain. It can simply be a few quiet minutes of doing nothing. No scrolling, no music, no responding, just sitting in silence, breathing, watching the sunlight shift across the wall, or listening to the sound of birds outside your window, the ones you haven't noticed in a while. That's how I started, during a season of confusion and fog, when I felt completely lost in both work and life. I tried giving myself 5 minutes each morning to do absolutely nothing. No goals, no expectations, just sitting, breathing, and seeing what might rise to the surface. At first, it felt incredibly uncomfortable, like I was wasting time, like I had to be doing something useful to feel worthy. But after a few days, it was as if a small space had opened up in my mind, where thoughts didn't crash into each other, where I could notice the smell of sunlight, the color of the sky, my real emotions, the ones that had been buried beneath constant busyness. A study from Harvard found that people spend nearly half their day thinking about things unrelated to what they're actually doing. And this mental wandering is one of the biggest reasons we feel drained, anxious, and disconnected. Stillness, then, isn't just about slowing down. It's about coming home to yourself. It's like in music. Without the rests between the notes, it's just noise. Without moments of silence, our soul gets drowned in the chaos of living. You don't need to begin with anything grand. Each morning, try to spend 5 minutes without your phone, without any screens, just you and your breath. Each night, before you sleep, write down 3 sentences that describe how you truly felt that day. No need for it to sound good, no need for perfect grammar, just real. And once a week, take a short walk with no headphones, just to listen to the wind, the rhythm of your footsteps, and the quiet stream of your own thoughts. I once asked a friend what the first thing she does in the morning is. She smiled and said, "I check my phone, read my messages, and dive straight into the news and deadlines." I asked, Have you ever just sat and breathed? Done nothing at all? She paused, laughed a little, and said, "No, never. And I get it. Because I used to be exactly the same. Until one rainy afternoon, with a heavy heart and a tangled mind, I tried sitting still. No music, no books, no phone, just watching raindrops slide down the window pane. And in that quiet moment, I felt something real, something close. I realized just how far I had drifted from myself. Imagine if your life were a race with no finish line. How long could you keep running before you lost your way? And yet, so many of us live that way, always running towards something we can't quite name, striving not to be left behind, to be seen, to prove that we matter. And then we wonder why we feel empty, why anxiety follows us like a shadow, why there's always something missing that we can't quite put into words. But here's the truth. Slowing down isn't going against the world. It's choosing to come back to yourself. It's pausing in the fast-spinning world to build a little space inside, where you can breathe, where you can just be, where you don't have to prove anything to anyone. Silence isn't empty. It's full of answers. And you'll never hear those answers unless you stop long enough to truly listen. Habit 2. Writing to clear the mind, to cleanse the heart. If stillness is the moment you pause to truly listen to your mind, then writing is the next step, where you pick up a pen and begin naming the things floating inside. Writing is not about becoming a writer. It's not about sharing your words for others to read. It's simply about giving yourself a safe space to breathe out the emotions you haven't yet found the words to express. There are times when my mind feels like a cluttered room, filled with tangled thoughts, with the voices of expectations, fear, and exhaustion all crashing into each other. And instead of trying to organize them, I simply open a notebook, pick up a pen, and begin writing whatever comes up. No editing, no pretty words, no pausing to think, just writing. In the beginning, my words were messy, just like how I was feeling inside, but after a few days, something shifted. I began to understand myself more clearly. I could see the vague feelings take shape. I felt lighter after each page, like every sentence helped me release something I'd been holding onto far too tightly. There's a practice called morning pages, introduced in the book The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. It's about writing 3 pages by hand each morning. Not for beauty, not for grammar, not even to read back later, just letting every thought flow freely. That act alone becomes a form of listening, a way to bring the inner world into the light and gently ask yourself, what am I really carrying in my heart? Writing is a simple habit, but it holds profound healing power, because when you can write something down, you've already taken a step away from its grip. Like when you can name an emotion, it stops controlling you so silently. It becomes something seen, acknowledged, heard. I remember going through a long stretch of time when I kept writing the same thing over and over. I don't feel good enough. I'm not as talented as others. I don't deserve to be loved. And then one day, as I looked back at those pages, I let out a soft laugh. I had written the same lines so many times. So that day, I chose to write something different. I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to live kindly every day. And that single sentence, honest and gentle, was enough to ease something deep inside me. One study from the American Psychological Association found that writing about negative emotions can actually reduce activity in the part of the brain responsible for anxiety. Which means writing doesn't erase pain, but it helps us stop carrying it all alone. It helps transform our pain into something we can witness and take care of. You don't need to write a lot. Just a small notebook by your bedside is enough. Every evening, write down a few lines. Maybe something that made you smile today, or a sadness you didn't quite know how to share with anyone. Your words don't need to be understood by anyone else. They don't need to be judged, because the only person who needs to hear them is you. Writing also helps you notice the patterns in your mind. You might find yourself worrying about the same thing again and again, and when you see those patterns clearly, You can start changing the way you speak to yourself. You can try writing a new version of your story. Softer, more compassionate. And in doing that, you're not just writing, you're gently reshaping your inner world. Every line you write is a small step toward peace. You can create a writing ritual just for yourself, like I often do each night, lighting a small candle, opening my notebook, and letting the pen guide me through my emotions. Some days it's just a few lines, other days it's an entire page. I don't write to complete something. I write simply so I no longer abandon my own feelings. You can write about an old memory, from the safe distance of the present. You can write a letter to your past self that you never sent. You can write with words, with sketches, with symbols or keywords. There's no right way to write, no perfect format. The only thing that matters is that you're genuinely connecting with yourself through every word. Anne Frank once said, "Paper is more patient than people." And for me, that has always been true. In a world that constantly demands strength, speed, and perfection, writing becomes your quiet space where you are allowed to be lost, to be fragile, to not know, and still be accepted. So if today your heart feels messy, if your mind is clouded with questions that don't yet have answers, maybe all you need to begin the journey back to yourself is a blank notebook and a pen. Habit 3. Meaningful connection begins with genuine presence. We are living in a time surrounded by people, and yet, it's never been easier to feel alone. Loneliness isn't always about the absence of someone next to us, but more often about how fragile and fleeting human presence has become. There are conversations where we show up physically, but not truly. There are moments when we meet someone's eyes, but they don't really see them. Have you ever been at a gathering where everyone was laughing and chatting, and yet, you felt completely hollow inside? Have you ever talked to someone and felt like you were only speaking to half of them, while the other half was somewhere else, lost in a phone screen, distracted by messages, notifications, and the pressure of an endless to-do list? I believe one of the reasons we feel disconnected from ourselves is because we've lost the depth of connection with others. And when no one truly sees us with full presence, when no one listens with an unguarded heart, we start to question our own worth, our place in the world. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, a Vietnamese spiritual leader renowned for his teachings on mindfulness and peace, once wrote, "When you love someone, the most precious gift you can offer them is your presence. Not advice, not a gift, not a solution, but your full, calm, undistracted presence. A presence that says, 'I see you, I'm here with you,' like a mirror that reflects the truth of the other person, with compassion and care." We don't need many relationships. What we need are a few deep ones, where we don't have to pretend, where we don't have to act okay, where we don't have to strive to be more likable, more polished, more impressive. I once reunited with an old friend after many years. We sat in a quiet little cafe, but through the whole conversation, my friend kept checking their phone, replying to messages, scrolling through random things. At one point, I asked a question about something I just shared, and they couldn't remember what I had said. When we parted ways, I smiled, but inside, I felt quietly disappointed. It wasn't because they didn't care, it was because they weren't truly there. And I realized, in an age where everyone is constantly connected online, true presence has become one of the rarest gifts. Being present doesn't just mean sitting next to someone, it means letting your mind stay with them, meeting their eyes when they speak, listening not just to their words, but also to the things they don't know how to say. Rollo May, an existential psychologist, once wrote, "Listening is an act of love. When we truly listen to someone, we give them affirmation of their existence." And I deeply believe that, because sometimes, what we need is not a solution, not someone trying to fix us, but simply to be heard, to feel that our sadness is real, our emotions are not wrong, and our presence matters. And sometimes, you'll be the one who gives that gift to someone else. You don't need to be eloquent. You don't need the perfect advice. You just need to stay, unhurried, undistracted, without trying to do or say the right thing. There was a time when a close friend of mine lost their mother. I went to their house, and I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what kind of comfort I could offer, so I just sat beside them, poured a cup of tea, and let the silence do what it needed to do. No pretending, no rushing. And later, my friend told me, "That day, you didn't say much, but you stayed, and that was enough for me not to feel alone." Sometimes, a quiet, loving presence speaks louder than any words. Henri Nouwen, in his book The Wounded Healer, wrote, "We cannot take away someone's pain, but we can sit with them in the darkness until they find their own light." You see, connection doesn't require special skills. What it takes is courage. The courage to stay when someone is hurting, to not pull away when things go quiet, to remain even when you don't know exactly what to say. Living slowly gives us the inner space to fully receive another person, to listen not to reply, to pay attention not to fix, but simply to be there, with sincerity, with gentleness. You can begin with the smallest things. When you talk to someone, put your phone down, so they know you're truly listening. Each day, reach out to one person, not with an emoji or a quick message, but with words that come from the heart. Try planning an evening with no devices, just sharing a meal, having a conversation, or playing a simple game. You might be surprised by the quiet magic that unfolds. The way a deep connection can begin to heal something you didn't even know needed healing. Like in The Little Prince, when the fox tells the prince, "One sees clearly only with the heart. What is essential is invisible to the eye." Real connection doesn't come from appearances, or status, or hearts tapped on a screen. It comes from eyes that don't judge, from hands that don't let go, from staying, truly staying, when another person is at their most vulnerable. And in the moments when you are fully present for someone else, you may find that you are also returning, gently, back to yourself. We are living in a strange time, where everything is pushed to be faster, to be more, to be better. And somewhere in that endless motion, we forget the simplest thing: how to feel, how to listen to ourselves, how to truly be present in this life. Not just to keep running, but to live. But you know, you don't need to change the whole world. You don't need to move to the mountains or delete all your social media to slow down. You just need to begin with one small thing: a moment of stillness each morning, a journal page no one else will ever read, a look of full presence for someone you care about. 3 habits. So simple, yet 3 quiet keys that can unlock the door back to your own inner world. Slow down to breathe. Slow down to write. Slow down to truly connect. Slow down, not because you're weak, but because you are learning to live more deeply, more kindly, more peacefully. And if today, something in your heart stirred while listening to this, if you're somewhere on the journey of learning how to feel safe and grounded in a world that often feels too loud, then I hope this video wraps around you like a soft blanket on a windy afternoon. And if something in this video spoke to you, please leave a comment below. I read every single one, and I'm always here to listen. Hit subscribe to join me here on Healing Pages, where we grow, heal, and slowly find our way back to the peace that's always lived within us. And if you know someone who might need a gentle word today, please share this video with them, as a small gift of presence and care. Thank you for staying until the end. I'll see you again, on another quiet afternoon, with the soul softly returning home. You don't need to go far to find peace. Because sometimes, when you slow down enough, you'll finally hear that your soul has been calling you all along.